The morning they told me my husband had passed, I was standing in the hospital hallway holding 2 cups of coffee, one for me, one for him. I never drank mine. I just stood there until a nurse gently took both cups from my hands. That was 3 years ago, and some days it still feels like 3 hours. My name is Carol. I'm 63 years old. I spent 31 years teaching 4th grade at Maplewood Elementary in Dayton, Ohio. When my husband Robert got sick, I took early retirement to care for him. We burned through most of our savings in the last 14 months, not because we were careless, because illness is expensive in ways nobody warns you about. After the funeral, after the cards stopped coming and the casseroles stopped appearing on my porch, I realized I needed to go back to work. Not full-time teaching. I didn't have the heart for it anymore, but I found a part-time position at the Dayton Public Library, 2 blocks from the apartment I'd moved into after selling the house. The apartment was small and the radiator knocked all night, but it was mine and I could afford it. Just barely. I started at the library in January. Cold mornings, gray skies, the kind of Ohio winter that sits on your chest. I walked to work because parking downtown was expensive, and I told myself the exercise was good for me. That's when I first noticed him. He sat on the low brick wall just outside the main entrance of the library, off to the right side where the overhang gave a little shelter from the wind. An older man, I guessed mid-70s, though hard living can age a person, with a canvas duffel bag at his feet and a paper cup he held in both hands, even when it was clearly empty. He wore a gray wool coat that had once been a good coat. You could tell by the cut of it. He was clean, or as clean as circumstances allowed, and he never asked anyone for anything. He just sat there, watching people come and go with calm, steady eyes. The first morning I saw him, I slowed down without meaning to. Something about the way he sat, straight-backed, quiet, unbothered by the cold, made me think of my father. My father had that same quality, a stillness that wasn't sadness, just patience. I went inside and did my shift, shelving returns, helping a woman find large print mysteries, answering the same question about the printer 17 times. When I left at noon, he was still there. I stopped at the hot dog cart on 5th Street on my way home and bought a coffee and a wrapped sandwich. I walked back and held them out to him. He looked at me for a moment. Not suspicious, not eager. Just measuring. "Thank you," he said. His voice was low and clear. "I'm Walter. I'm Carol. I work in there." I gestured at the library doors. He nodded, like that explained something. I said goodbye and went home. The next morning, I brought an extra coffee from the gas station on my walk. $2.25. I set it on the wall beside him without making a production of it. He picked it up and said, "Morning, Carol." And that was that. It became a routine. Not every day. Some days I ran late or forgot. But most mornings, I brought him something. A coffee. A muffin I'd made the night before, because baking was the thing I did now when I couldn't sleep. A pair of wool socks from the dollar bin at Walgreens when February turned brutal. He always said thank you. Never more than that, and I never asked for more than that. My coworker Diane noticed. Diane noticed everything. "You know you can't fix it, right?" she said one afternoon, not unkindly as I was pulling on my coat to leave. "I'm not trying to fix anything," I said. "I'm just being neighborly." She gave me the look she reserved for overdue patrons who claimed they'd returned their books. I let it go. What I didn't tell Diane, what I hadn't told anyone, was that those 2 minutes at the brick wall every morning had become the part of my day I looked forward to most. Not because Walter and I talked much. We didn't. But there was something settling about his presence. He was always exactly where he said he'd be. In a season of my life when almost nothing was where I'd left it, that mattered. By March, I'd learned small things about him. He'd lived in Dayton most of his life. He'd had a daughter, but didn't say more than that. He'd mentioned a book once, A History of the Ohio River Valley, and when I brought him a copy from the library's used sale shelf for 50 cents, his face did something complicated for a moment before he steadied it. "Good find," he said. "It looked like something you'd like." He opened it to the middle, read one paragraph, and closed it carefully. "It is," he said. I didn't push. Some people's stories are theirs to keep. Spring came. I settled into a rhythm. Library in the mornings, home by early afternoon. Cooking something simple for dinner. Reading until I fell asleep on the couch. It was a quiet life. Smaller than what I'd had, but survivable. Then, in April, everything changed at the library. Our branch director, Mr. Harmon, announced he was retiring at the end of the month. He'd been there 22 years. The staff threw him a small party with a sheet cake from Kroger, and everyone cried a little, including Mr. Harmon himself. His replacement was announced 2 weeks later. Her name was Vanessa Price. She was 38, sharp, and arrived with 2 large monitors and a new filing system she called a complete operational overhaul. By her 3rd day, she had rearranged the staff room, discontinued 3 programs Mr. Dickioed. Harmon had run for years and sent a 12-point email about resource accountability that made Diane's left eye twitch. I tried to stay neutral. Change was change. New people had new ideas. I'd taught long enough to know that not every new idea was a bad one, but something felt off. It was small things at first. A discrepancy in the supply order that Vanessa explained away quickly, a donation check from the Friends of the Library that Diane mentioned had cleared but wasn't reflected in the monthly report Vanessa posted, a part-time staff member named Josh, who'd been there 4 years and was let go in May with 2 days' notice and no explanation beyond restructuring. I mentioned the check discrepancy to Diane, quietly, one afternoon. "I saw that too," Diane said. She lowered her voice. I asked her about it. She told me the Friends of the Library had changed their payment schedule and the report was formatted differently this cycle. "Did that make sense to you?" Diane paused. "Not really. But I'm not an accountant." Neither was I, so I let it go. A week later, on a Tuesday morning, I stopped at the wall with Walter's coffee. He didn't take it right away. He was watching the library entrance with an expression I hadn't seen on him before. Focused. Alert. "Something wrong?" I asked. He turned to look at me. Then back at the door. "The woman who came in at 8:15, he said. "In the blue coat. That's Vanessa, our new director." "How long has she been there?" "About 6 weeks. Why?" He was quiet for a moment. He took the coffee. His eyes stayed on the door. "Walter," I said. "You keep records at that library," he said. "You keep records at that library," he said. It wasn't a question. Financial records? Yes. It's a public institution, so, and someone new is in charge of those records now. The way he said it made the back of my neck prickle. "What do you know about her?" He looked at me then, fully, in that measuring way he had. "I sit here every day," he said. "I watch people come and go. A man alone and still, people forget he can see them." He paused. 2 weeks ago, a man in a silver sedan picked her up at closing time, parked in the loading zone. She got in the passenger side and they sat there for 40 minutes. Never went anywhere. Just talked. People talk in cars. He handed her an envelope before she got out. I said nothing. Last Thursday, same car, same spot. She came out with a folder and got in. Came back 10 minutes later without it. I sat down slowly on the cold brick wall beside him. "Walter, are you saying I'm saying I've watched that building for 2 years?" He said quietly. "Mr. Harmon used to bring me lunch on Fridays. Did you know that? Every Friday for 2 years, a ham sandwich and a bag of chips?" He wrapped both hands around his cup. "I'm saying, be careful. Don't ask questions where she can hear you asking them. I drove home that afternoon instead of walking, which I almost never did. I sat in my car in the parking lot of my apartment building and thought about what Walter had said. I thought about the missing donation, about Josh being let go, about a folder passed through the window of a silver sedan. I thought, I am a 63-year-old woman who shelves books and bakes muffins when she can't sleep. This is not my problem to solve. And then I thought about the reading programs Vanessa had cut. 12 children in the Tuesday afternoon story hour who now had nowhere to go. The donation those 12 children's programs had been funded by. The check that cleared but didn't appear in any report. I went inside and made dinner and didn't sleep much. The next morning, I came in early. Vanessa didn't arrive until 8:15, like always. Between 7:45 and 8:10, while the building was quiet and only Diane and I were in, I went into the records room on the pretense of looking for the supply invoices from last quarter. I knew where Mr. Harmon kept things. I knew how the filing system had worked before the operational overhaul. Some of it had been moved, but not all of it. I found 3 months of deposit records and cross-referenced them with the Friends of the Library statements that were filed separately. The numbers didn't match, not in a rounding error way, in a consistent, patterned, deliberate way. Small enough amounts that a casual review would miss them. Large enough that over a year, they would add up to something significant. My hands were steady as I photographed each page with my phone. I didn't feel brave. I felt like a woman who'd been a teacher for 31 years and knew the difference between a mistake and a lie. I put everything back exactly as I found it and went to shelve the morning returns. That night, I didn't know who to call. The library board felt unsafe. I didn't know who Vanessa might be connected to. The police felt like an overreach for financial discrepancies I couldn't fully interpret. I sat at my kitchen table with my photographs and my calculations and felt very alone. I thought about Robert. He would have known what to do. He'd spent 20 years in city administration and he'd navigated more than one difficult situation with paperwork and patience and the right person's phone number. I didn't have his Rolodex anymore, but I had the internet, and I had time, and I had 31 years of practice in teaching people to find what they were looking for. I found the Ohio State Auditor's Office. I found the contact form for public library financial complaints. I found a name. A senior investigator listed on a recent case summary involving a municipal library in Columbus. Her name was Patricia Nguyen. I sent her an email at 11:15 at night with my photographs attached, explaining what I was, what I'd found, and that I understood completely if this amounted to nothing. I just needed to tell someone who might know what to look at. She replied at 7:40 the next morning. I won't share the details of what followed, because some of it is still part of the official record and it's not entirely my story to tell. But I will tell you this, Patricia Nguyen was very good at her job, and the man in the silver sedan had done this before. Not in Dayton, in 2 other counties, with 2 other public institutions, with Vanessa Price as the inside contact each time. They'd been careful. But not careful enough, as it turned out, once someone started looking at the pattern. Vanessa Price was placed on administrative leave on a Thursday in June. By Friday afternoon, the full board had been notified. By the following week, the investigation had expanded beyond anything I'd set in motion. Diane called me at home that Friday evening. "Carol," she said. "Was that you?" "I just sent an email," I said. She was quiet for a long moment. "You shelve books," she said. "I taught children to read for 31 years, I said. "I know what to do with information." She laughed, which was not something Diane did often, and it sounded wonderful. On Monday morning, I brought Walter his coffee, and I sat down beside him and told him all of it. He listened without interrupting, which was his way. When I finished, he nodded slowly. He turned the cup in his hands. "The investigation, is it going to be all right?" he asked. "Patricia says yes." The documentation was thorough. He nodded again. I looked at him. Walter, how did you know to watch for that? The envelope, the sedan. Most people would have thought nothing of it. He was quiet for a while. A pigeon walked along the edge of the wall toward us, thought better of it, and flew away. I worked for the city, he said finally. 30 years, finance department, budget oversight. I waited. There was a situation, he said, 8 years ago. An auditing scheme, smaller than this one, but the same shape. I found it and reported it. He paused. The people I reported it to were part of it. I lost my position. Then I lost my apartment. Then I lost my daughter's trust because she thought I'd been reckless. He said it without bitterness. Just as facts, arranged in order. By the time it was sorted out and I was cleared, I had lost the habit of having things. I sat very still. I know what it looks like when someone is moving money they shouldn't be moving, he said. I've been watching it for 2 years, waiting for someone worth telling. He glanced at me sideways. A woman who brings coffee to a stranger in January seemed like a reasonable candidate. I thought about that for a moment. You were testing me. I was waiting to see what kind of person you were. The corner of his mouth moved. You brought socks. I laughed. I hadn't laughed like that in a while. Sudden and helpless, the kind that surprises you. We sat together on that wall until the library opened, and for a while, neither of us said anything. And that was just fine. I want to tell you how it ended, properly, because I think you deserve to know. The investigation confirmed that over 14 months, approximately $47,000 had been systematically diverted from the Dayton Public Library's operating and donation funds. Vanessa Price entered into a plea agreement. The man in the silver sedan, her connection from the previous schemes, was charged separately. The library recovered a significant portion of the funds through asset forfeiture proceedings. The Tuesday afternoon children's reading program was reinstated in September. As for Walter, Patricia, and Gwen's office, in the course of their investigation, reviewed records of what had happened to him 8 years prior. There were city pension contributions that had never been properly processed after his wrongful termination. Patricia connected him with a legal aid attorney who handled the claim pro bono. I'm not going to overstate what happened, because Walter would roll his eyes at me if I did. It wasn't a fairy tale resolution. He didn't get back what he'd lost. You don't, usually. Not all of it. But he received a settlement that was enough for a clean start, and his daughter called him in October. And I know because he told me on a Tuesday morning with his hands wrapped around his coffee cup and his voice even and steady, the way it always was. He moved into a place on the east side of Dayton in November, a 1-bedroom near a park. He still comes by the library sometimes on Wednesday afternoons. He has a library card now. He takes out history books, mostly, and occasionally a mystery, which he says he's willing to admit are underrated. I turned 64 in December. Diane brought a cake to the staff room. Walter came, which surprised me, and he sat in the corner and drank coffee and watched everything with those calm, patient eyes. And afterward he shook my hand and said, "Happy birthday, Carol," like it was a complete sentence, which somehow it was. I still walk to work in the mornings. The new director is a young man named Thomas who asks the staff for input before changing anything and has already reinstated the free tax help program Mr. Harmon used to run. The radiator in my apartment still knocks at night, but I've gotten used to it. Some nights I think about how close I came to just walking past that brick wall on a cold morning in January. How easy it would have been to look straight ahead, the way most of us do in winter. How differently things might have gone, for me, for Walter, for the $47,000, for 12 children on Tuesday afternoons, a $2.25 cup of gas station coffee. I am not a sentimental woman generally. I'm a former 4th grade teacher from Dayton, Ohio, and I believe in documentation and follow-through and wearing appropriate footwear in cold weather. But I have come to believe in the specific, evidence-based way that teachers tend to believe things, that small kindnesses have a longer reach than we know. that they travel further than we send them. Wherever you are right now, whatever kind of January you're living through, I hope you remember that. Be the person who brings the coffee. You never know who's watching out for you.